Captain E.F. Handley stood on the bridge wing of the MV Heron, squinting into the distance behind the ship. His dark eyes focused on the line running from the Heron's stern to the dilapidated fishing trawler she was towing. He grunted a note of displeasure. "We've got a situation brewing." Handley was a lifelong sailor in his early 60s and the captain of the mid-sized freighter that made runs between the Bahamas and various American ports. His face was a weathered mix of sun-damaged skin and a bristly beard. It was deeply tanned, with a hint of carmine red in the palette. His hair was wild and unruly, a nest of coarse grays that stuck out from beneath an old ball cap, which he repeatedly removed and repositioned in hopes of corralling the bushy mess. "What kind of situation?" a taller, more kempt individual asked. Handley looked over at the man in khaki pants and a blue windbreaker. Gerald Walker was not a member of the crew, but had chartered the voyage and come along to supervise, taking them to a random spot in the eastern Atlantic, where they'd found the damaged trawler and taken it under tow. Walker claimed he wanted to take it back to Nassau, but he would allow no radio calls or other forms of transmission, and Handley expected he had another destination in mind. As a pretense, Walker pretended to work for a big insurance company, but Handley knew an American Navy man when he met one. Walker was too squared away to be a civilian, too tight-lipped to be telling the whole story. Besides, the trawler was of negligible financial value, cheaper to sink than to save. And then, of course, there were the bodies. "See our tow line?" Handley said. "It should be dipping into the water halfway between us and the trawler, but it's pulling up. The sag has gone out of it. The strain on the line is growing." "Current or wind?" Walker asked, showing he knew a thing or two about towing a derelict. "Neither," Handley said. "She's taking on water. She's sinking. We're going to have to go back on board, set up pumps, and see if we can find the leak." "I can't allow that," Walker said with a firm but polite tone. The captain propped the ball cap higher on his head. "Something you don't want us to see on that ship, Mr. Walker? Something other than a bunch of dead Chinamen?" "Dead Chinese," Walker corrected, "and I don't know what you're referring to. That ship was abandoned when we found it." Handley laughed. "You play all the games you want, Mr. Walker. Meanwhile, that ship is getting heavier and lower in the water. She's dragging us like an anchor, which means we have to slow down or the line will snap. Reducing speed means Nassau is another half a day's sailing. The slower we go, the longer it takes. The longer it takes, the more water that trawler takes on, forcing us to slow down even more. See where I'm going with this?" Walker understood their predicament. "You're saying the trawler will be on the bottom before we reach the Bahamas. She'll be untowable long before that." As Walker pondered the options, Handley took another look behind them. Out beyond the trawler, something new caught his eye. An odd arc of light had appeared in the sky. It looked like the sunrise, but it was nearly dusk, and the sun was going down in the other direction. At first, he thought it must be a reflection or a mirage, but the shimmering arc of light was moving closer. "What the devil is that?" The apparition seemed to be approaching in silence, or perhaps just so quietly that any sound was drowned out by the wind and the waves. But as it crossed above the trawler, a humming sound became audible. An instant later, the arc of light split into 4 separate orbs. 2 of them branched off to the port side, while the others went to starboard. Before long, they were circling the Heron like a pack of wolves. "Captain," one of the crewmen said nervously. "What is this?" Handley snapped, looking at Walker. "A message from your dead Chinese friends?" Walker was turning from point to point, trying to keep his eyes on the slowly circling balls of light. They were growing brighter with each pass, leaving streaks on his retina as they flared into spheres of gold and orange.